Yeah.
Just ask a line about the question about leaving the church and stuff. And during this time of discernment that we've had over the last couple of years, we've had open discussion. People have gone back and forth to both sides. My hearing of that takes anybody who's considered the possibility, who've actively discussed the possibility of going and leaving the Episcopal Church, is no longer qualified and is no longer desired to be in leadership, and has caused leadership that we've elected in positions to leave because those discussions have come up in a time that we've been in through open discernment, which I would hope was part of the three-legged stool in the Episcopal
Sure.
Church.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if anybody has actively solicited other people's leaving the Episcopal Church or not.
You've asked that, and
Yeah,
no.
but I mean, I don't know that. If in your mind you can't sign it because you have actively advocated for others to leave the Episcopal Church, that's your decision, not my decision. And we're not suggesting that because we've talked about these things that's some kind of line that you've crossed, because we've all talked about those things over the last year. I think everyone knows what this means. It means you're actively soliciting people to leave the Episcopal Church. And if you are advocating for folks in the Episcopal Church, this parish, to leave the Episcopal Church, then I'm not that interested in having you be in a trust position on the board of an Episcopal church. That's all it means, okay? It doesn't mean that you can't talk about it, or it doesn't mean you can't disagree with it. It just means that you can't actively advocate, foment secession. Yes?
You said that the signing the document, or the oath actually, is to protect the church. It's also to protect the people who take responsibility, because in not knowing they have that, if they have a fiduciary responsibility. If they sign something and intend to reject that, they may be jeopardizing their financial future or anything else because of legal circumstances. So you're in a position to, by signing this, to show that you want the protection of the organization that you're pledging allegiance to as well, which you won't have if you're lying about what you're doing.
Good point.
Other, would you repeat the question?
Oh, boy. I don't know if I can. The gist of what Hugh said is that if you're a member of the Board of Trustees, the vestry, and you're signing things as a fiduciary of that organization, that this oath of office protects you as a member of the vestry, because you know you're surrounded by other trustees who have the same fidelity to the institution, and that you're not, in a minority or out there all by yourself with other trustees whom you cannot trust. Is that the gist of it? All right, and they're right here. Carrie.
Yes. Would a vote at convention be considered an act of betrayal of the fiduciary?
The question is, would a vote at convention be a breach of trust? All right. Do you want my opinion is that if you are a delegate from an Episcopal institution that goes to a meeting and votes that organization leaves the Episcopal Church, that you have crossed the line.
That was how I read it.
Yep. There was one back here. Just repeat the question. Was that it? Okay. Ellen?
If the oath is only to protect the church, then why do you think so many people are having a problem with it, or a problem with signing it?
The question is why, if the oath is to protect the church and to protect the Board of Trustees, why do I think so many people are having a problem signing it? Especially, I guess, when in years past it's been there and there's not been a peep. And I honestly don't know. You have to ask people that object, but it's, I don't know, maybe they're insulted that they would have to do such a thing. But again, we do this with, if you are an usher and handle money, or a counter, you know, the money counter for the church, on Monday, they take all the money that you put in the plate and they sort it out and count it. Every one of those people has to have a background check. And that doesn't mean that I think Pat Patton's a crook. And Pat wouldn't be offended because he knows when I was a pediatrician, and I first got to the nursery in southwest Kansas, the standing orders for babies, when I got there, regarding silver nitrate drops, you know, the drops they put in babies' eyes to prevent them from getting gonorrhea, right, and blindness. The standing orders were at the nurse's discretion. They would put the drops in some babies' eyes, but they wouldn't in other babies' eyes. At the nurse's discretion, which meant that the nurses would just kind of eyeball a mommy and go, oh boy, we better put some drops in this kid. Or they'd eyeball a mommy and say, well, you know, we're in the same sorority, you know, the PTO or whatever it was called. We don't need to put, you know, gonorrhea drops in her baby's eye. Do you see what's wrong with that? You see what's wrong with that? And so obviously when I got there, I said, no, I don't care, you know, if they're on the school board or the mayor or, you know, they're all going to get gonorrhea drops, all right? We're not going to just sort of eyeball them and say, you're worthy. You know? And we don't do that with money counters here. We don't say, we better get a background check on him, but you're okay. We don't do that with Sunday school teachers. We don't do that with trustees, all right? It doesn't mean that we think you're crooks. Good question. Any other questions about this?